Hey guys, Hi here from the Art Gear Guy. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's really late here, but I'm so far behind on all of this stuff, and I need to pull my finger out of my backside and start getting on with things and getting out a lot more reviews. So anyway, what happened was I've already done a review of both these pencils, individual reviews, and somebody had said to me a while back, Harry, listen, they've brought out a 100 set of the Faber Castell Black Edition, which I already knew about, but it was really difficult to try and get hold of a set of the 100 set. The biggest set that I could find here in the UK was the 50 set, and I'd already done, when I'd done my review, I think it was off the 48 set or something like that. It was around about that, or 40 set, I can't remember. I'll have to put a link to that original review down below. But it was a small set in any case. It wasn't 50. So I wanted to get the 100 set because I wanted to see, the extra colours in it, that type of thing. But when I was going through doing the swatch and what have you, I thought to myself, it'll be really interesting to pit them against the Faber Castell Red, because I really love these pencils, especially at the price point that they're at. And I wanted to see where they kind of like fall in line with each other. And then, just as an extra side note, I have a really cool challenge that I want to put to you guys, and let's see how good you are at picking out certain pencils. Because just before I was about to do this, I thought to myself, I wonder what the gold Faber are like against these two pencils. And then, as I was doing like a little bit of a test for the gold Faber, the Faber Castell Red, and the Faber Castell Black, I thought to myself, well, I'll just throw a curveball in the mix here, and I'll stick down a little bit of a Faber Castell Polychromos test. So I've done I'll show you the test later on. So anyway, let's get into this first of all. Okay, so as you can see, so let's move this red set out of the way, and I'll show you the 100 set black. So as you can see, it comes in one of these cardboard boxes, same as this. The red set comes in like one of these things, and these things drive me nuts because they fall all over the place, and I've had this a while, and you can see it's kind of I mean, I can understand why they make these types of sets, because kids and stuff like that using them, which is what this is aimed at. If you just put this out on a table and you set it up the way it's supposed to be set up, the kids can select the colors fairly easily. So I understand why they do what they do, but I'm just personally not a big fan of them. As you can see, the Faber Castell Black Edition, it comes in pretty big box here, opens out. On the back here, it just lets you know extra smooth, super soft lead for rich, brilliant colours, ideal for light, coloured and dark papers. Now I'm going to get into that in just a second, because I do think that this is a little bit deceptive, but I'll explain what I mean in a second. So that set, the 100 set, comes in a slightly more sturdier version of what the red was there. It comes out, it's supposed to be set up like a square. I'll have some images popping up here as well for you, but you can see there the gist of how it's supposed to lay out. Now, when you look at this lineup, when you look at this box and the artwork on this box, you look at this and you think to yourself, right, okay, so these are going to be awesome on black paper, and this is kind of like the sell. To me, it appears like this is the selling point for the Faber Castell Black Edition. Now, I did some tests on the black paper the first time I did this review of these, and they weren't too bad on the black paper. But at the time, I only had, like I say, I had a small set, so I think it was a 38 set, something like that. But it didn't have all of this artwork on the box. And now that I look at this artwork, I think it looks a little bit deceptive. I'm not saying that they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes or anything like that. But if somebody in a shop seen this, they would think, wow, these colours are going to really pop off the black paper. But I'll show you the black paper test in a second that I've done. But let's take a look at the swatch first of all. Okay, so as you can see here, fairly standard set range of colours. If you look along the top here, nice selection of reds, yellows, oranges, nice selection of greens as well. Decent selection of greens. I would have liked to have seen a darker green in here, but the darkest green really is this one here, 760. Nice selection of blues. There's two fairly decent dark blues in here. Lavender's really nice as well. Then you've got more muted colours down here. Up at the top there, sorry, you've got the kind of like flesh tones. Then when we come down to the bottom here, we've got more muted tones coming into your earth tones. A few greys down here, different types of greys, the black, and then we've got a few neon colours. I know I've already gone over this, but I'll go over it again just for the sake of this video. So the pencils for the Faber Castell Black Edition are this triangular shape. With the Faber Castell Red, they're hexagonal. And as you can see, I will say this, when you first start out sharpening the Faber Castell Black Edition, I found it really difficult using a handheld sharpener when I first started, sharpening with them. Once you start off with your first couple of turns of the sharpener, it does become a little bit easier, but not by much. It's just one of those things. These triangular type barrels just don't play well with a lot of sharpeners. Your best bet is, if you want to use these pencils, if you're really insistent on using the Faber Castell Black Edition, use like a hand crank sharpener, or even better still, an electric sharpener, something like that. So but if you want all the dimensions of both these pencils, they'll be over on the written review. I've got so much to talk about here, I didn't want to put all that ad up. And I've already spoke about the dimensions of the pencils, like the barrel size and all the rest of it, over on the Art Gear Guide written review and the previous reviews that I did of these pencils. Before we go on with the nitty gritty of the testing between these two pencils, as you can see here, this is the 60 set of the Faber Castell Classic Red. Now the 60 set, by the way, is the biggest set, and with the Faber Castell Black Edition, it's 100 is their biggest set. So you can see there yourself the colour range. What I found better, a little bit better about the Faber Castell Red Edition was, if you look at the Black Edition swatch. So let's take a look. If you look at the Black Edition swatch here on the top where the reds are, the reds are fairly similar. There's not a dark red in there, and if you come down to the bottom here, these are more I don't know, burgundy, maroon colours, that type of thing. But they are not dark. And the artwork that I did with the Faber Castell Black Edition, I did need some dark reds, really dark reds, and this set just didn't give me a dark enough red. So I ended up using one of the indigo blues as like the darker part of it. But if you look at the 60 set here for the Faber Castell Classic Red, there's a couple of really nice dark rich reds in here. The greens are pretty similar to the Faber Castell Black Edition. There's not really a super dark green in there. Same with the blue as well. The blue same. It's just I miss some of the darker colours in both of these sets. But let's take a look on in any case. Okay, so this is the testing that I completed. Obviously, as you're looking on the screen, the Faber Castell Classic Red is on the left hand side as you're looking at it, and the Faber Castell Black Edition is on the right hand side as you're looking at it. So when it comes down to layering, both these pencils layered really well. I personally think that the Faber Castell Red Classic layers a little bit better than the Faber Castell Black. Now, when you compare both of the cores, I find that the Faber Castell Classic, the Faber Castell Red, they tend to be a little bit drier. The core tends to be a little bit drier, and I think that's probably why they layer slightly better. But the Faber Castell Classic Black Edition is more like a silky smooth, gloopy type consistency, and I think that's why they still layer really, really well, but it's just not as good as the Faber Castell Classic Red. So, but you can see here as well when it comes to, sorry, let me just use my pencil. When it comes to the single heavy application, the pigment strength on both the pencils are, if I had to say, from what I can see in my eyes, I would definitely say that the Faber Castell Black Edition has a slightly stronger pigment in the core than the Faber Castell Classic Red. Now, if we come down here to the bottom and you look at the blending tests, both pencils done really, really well with the blending. And in the artwork that I'm going to show you, the artwork that I did was just with the Black Edition. But the artwork that I did was, I did a lot of blending, a lot of layering, and everything was fine with that. Now, the paper that I've used for this test is Strathmore 300 series Bristol Vellum, and when I was doing the artwork, again, I was using the Strathmore 300 series Bristol Vellum as well, so the paper was the same. Now, if you look down here, so you'll have on the screen here coming up some a sped up version of me doing these spheres. So as you can see, the first one that I'm showing you now is the Faber Castell Red Classic. Now, all I'm doing here is just layering different shades of blue, and I'm using the black for the shadow end of the sphere. Obviously, the way this is situated, the light is coming down from the top left, and that's why the highlight is on the top of the sphere. Now, I used odorless mineral spirits. I just used some zested odorless mineral spirits to blend all of this together. And as you can see, the Faber Castell Classic Red blends really, really nicely together using the odorless mineral spirits. Now, next we have the Faber Castell Black Edition. Now, like I said to you, when it comes to the layering process, I don't know what you guys use in other countries, but here in the UK, when we're painting our house and inside, and we do like the woodwork or doors and windowsills, that type of thing, we use a paint called gloss, and it's really thick, oily type paint, and that's the best way I can describe the Faber Castell Black Edition core. When you are layering and layering, it gives you that kind of like oily consistency. By the way, I'm not saying that the Faber Castell, I don't get into the oil and wax conversation about cores. I prefer to talk about whether they're hard, whether they're soft, that type of thing, and how they layer, how they blend. I think you get much more information out of that than me just saying one's a wax base and one's an oil base, and I've already gone through that with the research that I did. But anyway, back onto this. But you can see here now is the odorless mineral spirits gets applied to the Faber Castell Black, they react beautifully to odorless mineral spirits. Now, I personally don't use odorless mineral spirits whenever I'm doing artwork and that type of thing. But with this test, you can see that the odorless mineral spirits works beautifully with the Faber Castell Black Edition. Now, both of these pencils, so given the excluding the barrel shape, so like I was saying earlier on about sharpening, the barrel is a little bit tough to sharpen with the handheld sharpener, whereas with the Faber Castell Classic Red, very, very easy because it's just a hexagonal barrel. But when it comes to both of these pencils, they hold the point really well. The only issue I have with, not issue, it's just part and parcel of the type of core it is, but with the Faber Castell Black Edition, so it's a really silky, it's not a soft core, but it is like silky smooth whenever you're layering it down and what have you. But when it comes to, you know, your final layers and you're starting to put heavy pressure down on it, that's when you start going to, I found that I went through these pencils quite quick. I was sharpening quite a lot and having to go back, but that was just because, you know, if you want a softer type core with a silky, you know, oily type consistency, unfortunately you're going to lose your core a little bit faster than what you would do at a different type pencil. Now, having said that, the Faber Castell Classic, like I say, it's a little bit drier whenever you're putting it down, and but it's still a relatively soft core. I mean, it holds a point really nice, and if you're doing really light layers, it'll hold that point for a considerable period of time. But once you start applying pressure on it and you're starting to put down heavy pressure down on this, the core's going to go down quite quickly on this as well. What you got to understand is the Faber Castell Classic are really aimed at kids. And so because of that, Faber Castell have got it absolutely right. Whenever you give a kid a set of pencils like this, the kid that is using them has got to see instant results. They shouldn't have to work hard at putting pressure and all that nonsense down. When a kid has a pencil in its hand, it wants to see the colour on the paper instantly. They don't want to have to mess around with layering and blending and all that nonsense. They just want colour. And Faber Castell have done a fantastic job with the Classic in that regard. With the Faber Castell Black Edition, I would say that they are... So I would say the Classic color, the Faber Castell Classic are kind of like aimed at your younger kids up to about maybe 10 or 11. And then I would say that the Faber Castell Black Edition are maybe aimed at kids from around about 11, 12 into the teens, coming up into high school, that type of thing. Now, having said that, I'm not suggesting for a second that they're the only groups that can use these pencils. Not at all. I absolutely love the Faber Castell Red because of the price point, and the quality that you get from this pencil is just amazing. Now, just before I show you the black test, this is the artwork that I did using the Faber Castell Black Edition. You can see there's a little bit of a sheen on it, and that's just from burnishing the final layers. It just gives you that kind of like really smooth texture. But I think this came out really well. I was really happy with it. It took a while to do, which is the reason why, doing the artwork for these... sorry, excuse me. Doing the artwork for these reviews is what takes the longest time. So I need to try and come up with a better system. Still doing artwork, but maybe not as big as this. Maybe something smaller. Okay, so if we look at the black paper. Now, this goes back to what I was saying about this, about the way they've marketed this. So, if you're looking at the black paper, on the left-hand side here, we've got the Faber Castell Black Edition, and then on the right-hand side, we've got the Faber Castell Classic Red Edition. You can definitely see that the pigment strength in the Faber Castell Black Editions, it is much stronger. Sorry, much more opaque. The Faber Castell Classic Red are much more translucent. But if you let me zoom in here, but if you look at the Faber Castell Classic Black Edition, you can see the line marks from when I was just applying. Both of these pencils have just got a heavy application, just one heavy application. But if you look at the Faber Castell Black Edition, you can see the line marks going across here. Whereas if you look at the Faber Castell Red Edition, or Classic Red, you don't see those lines. It's a much smoother layer. But again, like I say, I personally find out of these two pencils, the Faber Castell Classic Red is a much drier core, and therefore it gives you, I think, a smoother overall appearance to the layer. Whereas with the Faber Castell Black Edition, because it's a little bit more softer and gloopy and oily and silky, it applies, I suppose it applies a thicker layer is what I'm trying to say, which gives it that appearance there as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the pricing in a second, which is something I don't normally do in videos, but I'm going to do it here for the sake of the comparisons. But here's a little tester that I want you to do while I'm talking about the pricing, okay? So you've got four colours here. One is the Black Edition, one is the Red Edition, the Classic Red, one is the Faber Castell Gold Faber, and the other one is the Polychromos. Now, not telling you which order they're in. So what I want you to do is, while I'm talking here, study the image on your screen, and just for a little test, let's see who gets what. If you write it down in the comments section, or write it down on a notepad while I'm talking, and let's just see if you get it right. So if you think the Polychromos is number one, just put number one Polychromos, number two Black Edition, whatever you think it is. But I just thought it was a really interesting little test, because we're talking about four pencils from the same company here, and I think looking at these colours, it's very difficult to tell which is which. But maybe if you go a little bit closer into the image, I'll have an image coming up here. It'll be close up, so maybe that'll help you. So when it comes to the pricing of these, now this, like I say, this is something I don't normally talk about, but I wanted to on this comparison video. So for the 60 set of the Faber Castell Classic Red, it's here in the UK it's £13.99, £13.99, and in America I think it's around about like $13 as well. It's not very expensive, and I think that type of price point is just phenomenal for the type of pencils that the Faber Castell Classic Red are. The Faber Castell Black Edition, so for the 50 set, it is £19.94. So that's just a little bit more than the 60 set of the Classic Red. But I do think in the Faber Castell Black Edition, you are getting a slightly better pencil than the Faber Castell Classic Red. I think the Black Edition gives you, especially if you're doing things like fan art, that type of stuff, it just gives you stronger colours when you're working with it. Now the 100 set for the Faber Castell Black Edition is $44.62, so about £45 here in the UK. It's about, I think it's about $46 in the US, but I'll have all the proper prices over on the written review. But I'm just showing you here the prices. So for 100 of the Black Edition, it's about £45 here in the UK. Now, I think that's a decent price for 100 coloured pencils. I can't think of any other sets where you're going to get that type of price with this type of quality in the pencil. And you know, when you get anything from Faber Castell, more often than not, you're going to get a really good quality item. So that's just the ballpark figures of this. Now, both the Classic Red and the Faber Castell Black Edition come in cardboard and tin sets as well. So you got to look out for that. Make sure, you know, because the tins always tend to be a little bit more expensive than the cardboard for obvious reasons. And just out of interest, so for the 48 set of the Faber Castell Gold Faber, it's round about £36. I hadn't used the Gold Faber for quite some time. In fact, actually, I think the last time I used the Gold Faber was the last time I reviewed them, and I've not used them since. So when I got them out, I was actually really pleasantly surprised with them. And it's probably a pencil I'm going to have to revisit and take a better look at and what have you. Now, let's see if you all got it right. So there we go. Number 1 is the Classic Red. Number 2 is the Faber Castell Black Edition. Number 3 is the Faber Castell Gold Faber. And number 4 is the Faber Castell Polychromos. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't see too much of a difference. I would say out of all of them, you can definitely see that the pigment strength isn't as strong in the Classic Red, which is to be expected. You know, we're talking about a set here for £13. So it's to be expected. I haven't used exactly the same colours because for the Classic Red and the Black Edition, there are no colour names. They're just colour numbers. And it's the same with the Gold Faber. They're just colour numbers. Numbers on the pencils. There's not like names, so I couldn't select exact same colours. The only pencil is the Polychromos that has the colour name on it. So I just had the eyeball and hopefully get the same similar colours. It'd be interesting to see who got it right and what you thought. Anyway, guys, that's my video of the Faber Castell Black Edition and the Faber Castell Classic Red Edition. You know, Faber Castell has been around for an awful long time. They are a fantastic brand. They just produce quality products, very much in the same line as the likes of Caran d'Ache and Derwent. But then again, you're talking about 3 companies that have been around for a very, very long time. So, you know, at this stage of the game, in the time frame that these companies have been around, they have perfected their art in producing coloured pencils and whatever else that they do. I always think it's a little bit unfair but fun at the same time, but it's a little bit unfair to compare the likes of Caran d'Ache, Faber Castell, Derwent, and maybe 1 or 2 other names as well, against some of these cheaper sets like ArtX and Arteza and some of the other Chinese brands that come on the market, because you're talking about companies that have been around maybe 5, maybe in the case of Arteza, I think maybe about 8 years now or something like that, against companies that have been around for sometimes over 100 years, sometimes even much, much longer. So you've got to always take that into consideration when you're talking about comparisons. But I thought that this was a really interesting comparison, and if I had a thought about it and I had more time, I would have done something similar to the way I did with the Derwent comparison when I had the 4 pencils and I'd done 4 pairs, all drawn with the different pencils. But I probably wouldn't have been able to do that in any case, because With the Durban test, they were all 72 sets. With this, you know, you're talking about the gold Faber set I have is the 36 set. Then you've got a 60 set here, and then 100 set from the Black Edition, and then 120 with the Faber Castell Polychromos. So it's a little bit difficult to compare them properly with 4 bits of art, if you understand what I mean. If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask about this, please by all means leave your comments down below in this comment section, or questions, and I'll do my very best to get back to you. If I can't, I'll absolutely get in touch with Faber Castell and see if they can help me out if I can't answer your questions. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget, if you like the video, please like it, give it a like. Only if you like it, only if you found it beneficial. Don't be liking it if you didn't enjoy the video or anything like that. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the channel grow and get bigger and what have you. And also, but more importantly, when I put a video out or anything like that, you get a notification letting you know that there's a new video uploaded. Whenever I start doing live streams as well, you'll get a notification, that type of thing. Also as well, a lot of people don't know I've got a Patreon channel. So if you want to check out my Patreon channel, I'll have a link for that down below. You can go across. I've got a wide selection of tutorials over there, from graphite, colored pencil, marker and colored pencil, watercolor, pastel. So there's a wide selection of tutorials over there at the minute. If you go across, you'll see all the tiers and what have you, and a description of what's going on over there. But I just wanted to put that out there because I get a lot of people saying to me, my goodness, we didn't even know you had a Patreon channel. And that's it, guys. Also as well, if you'd like, follow me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. They're really the only social media platforms that I'm on, but especially Instagram. I put a lot of stuff out on Instagram and Facebook, not so much Twitter. I just push stuff out on Twitter just in case. But if you want to follow me over there as well, links will be down below. Thanks guys, see you in the next video. Bye.